We're in the final moments of 2020, and while it's been a difficult and disappointing year for many, a lot of amazing games were released this year as well. And in today's video, I'd like to briefly go over some of my favorite games released this year. I've predetermined several video game categories for 2020 with many nominees, and those who win will receive the orange carrot. Can you see it? Is that a good shot? Do I have to hold it in the center? You've just tuned in live to the Carrot Game Awards.
Stars and Stripes!
All right, thank you, everybody. Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 46th. So as I mentioned earlier, there are several categories that I'm going to mention, and that I'm going to talk about the excellence in certain games. Please keep in mind these are all my personal opinions, and this is really just an excuse for me to talk about games that I liked, or maybe games that I didn't like, who knows? So keep in mind, these are my opinions. There's no committee that decided any of these. It's just an excuse for me to talk about games that I liked. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first award. For Best DLC released in a game in 2020, the nominees are Doom Eternal: The Old Gods Part 1, Fallout 76, Wastelanders, Pokemon Sword and Shield, The Crown Tundra, Ghost of Tsushima, Legends, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Steve and Sephiroth, and I'm sure someone else. And lastly, Marvel's Avengers: Taking Aim. And the orange carrot goes to Fallout 76, Wastelanders.
Don't hate me for making this decision. I didn't. It wasn't me. I'm just reading the results.
I even with my extreme bias for the game, as you know, I love the game, I still think that the Wastelanders DLC is really impressive. Out of all the nominees, I genuinely think Wastelanders was really impressive. It added a lot to the game that really changed the fundamentals of how the game worked. When Fallout 76 first came out, there were no friendly NPCs. This was not an accident, it was done by design. But people disliked that decision so much, and with the lack of dialogue trees, a lot of people wanted more from the base Fallout 76 game. And Wastelanders added all of the missing things that were in previous Fallout games. I just think it was both really interesting that Bethesda was willing to change the fundamentals of Fallout 76, and I also think it's really impressive that they added so much to the game and it's still playable. And putting all that aside, I just really like the story of Wastelanders. It's a cool idea, I got really excited when it first came out, and with recent DLCs combined with the Wastelanders DLC, it really makes the world feel like it's growing as time goes on. Fallout 76 is my first live service game, and it kind of makes me feel like I'm playing something like Warcraft, where the world is literally changing as I play the game for longer. I still don't know how I feel about the other DLCs released during this year, like Steel Dawn, but Wastelanders itself, I think, was a really cool inclusion to the game. And the next category is for Best Nintendo Game of 2020. The nominees are Animal Crossing: New Horizons.
Also, Paper Mario was nominated.
And the award goes to Animal Crossing: New Horizons. So I gotta be honest, I loved playing Animal Crossing this year, and I had a lot of fun with it. I still play it semi-regularly. It's a really cool game to just kind of decompress with. But that being said, I don't really think of it as like one of my favorite games of the year. It's just a new Animal Crossing game, and it's a good Animal Crossing game. I wish there were some other Nintendo games to choose from this year. I considered giving Paper Mario this award, and I'm not really against the direction they've taken Paper Mario over the years, but I also haven't played enough of that game to really give a concrete verdict on it. However, even with my hesitance to call Animal Crossing my favorite Nintendo game of the year, there's no denying that I've played hours and hours and hours of it. And I've had some really awesome opportunities to create my own stories and to be really creative in the game. And those memorable qualities are enough to make a game fantastic, in my opinion. Hey, really quickly, editing scraps here. So after I finished recording this, I played a little bit of Animal Crossing to get some footage for the video, and I just want to say, I'd like to revise my statement and say I have no reservations about making Animal Crossing my favorite Nintendo game of 2020. I think a lot of people experience Animal Crossing withdrawal because you played so much of it in such a short amount of time, and so when you're not playing it, it makes you feel like it's not a game you enjoy, but that's simply not true. Whenever you play the game, you just fall right back into it, and it's absolutely fantastic. This is one of the games I like to use to calm down whenever I'm stressed out or whenever I have too much on my plate, and it really helps ground me and put my mind at ease. So yeah, I just wanted to say I wholeheartedly consider this my favorite Nintendo game of 2020. The next category is the 2020 game out of left field. The nominees are Fortnite. And the winner is Fortnite.
I'm I'm sorry I keep saying Fortnite. It's not my choice. They made me say it.
Most of my longtime viewers know that Fortnite is not a game that I've played extensively until 2020. Sure, I had played it when the game first came out with friends, but other than socially, I had never really played the game on my own, or even played to win for that matter. But as a giant, obnoxious Marvel fanboy, I had to start playing Fortnite when the Marvel Battle Pass was introduced. I actually grappled with this for a while because I was worried that I was going to spend money on a battle pass that I wasn't even going to play. The idea of me earning all of the cosmetics in the Marvel Battle Pass by playing Fortnite was so foreign to me that I just didn't think I would play the game. But I eventually caved in, bought the battle pass, and started playing the game, and to my surprise, I actually really love it. No, it is not the best game ever made, but I also don't think it deserves all of the flack that it's caught over the years. People seem to be obsessed with this game when it first came out, but then when a bunch of kids started playing it, they tried to pretend like they never played it from the beginning. I mean, this game went from insanely popular to you're judged if you play it in a very short amount of time. But I don't really care what people think. I like the things that I like. I will acknowledge wholeheartedly that it's very silly that I play Fortnite so much, but I also will acknowledge that it's a really fun game. I've gotten a lot of my friends to reluctantly play, and after the first couple matches, they got really into it. And the opportunity to play with Marvel skins is super awesome in my opinion. I can essentially treat Fortnite like a Marvel video game since I can play as Thor or Iron Man. And on the subject of skins, the skins actually look really fantastic. I wish there was an actual Marvel video game with this art style that they used for these skins. She-Hulk in particular looks fantastic. I'm a huge She-Hulk fan, and I'm always disappointed that she doesn't get more mainstream attention. So the fact that they chose to include her in the Marvel Battle Pass was so cool to me, and I really love the way that she's rendered in the game. To continue the conversation on skins, and the last thing I'll say about Fortnite is that while microtransactions are not my favorite thing in video games, and while the skins in Fortnite are definitely still overpriced in my opinion, I will say that the cosmetic options are really fantastic in the game. They're super stylized, and you can tell a lot of work went into each skin. Again, I don't necessarily agree with the price of these skins, but if I'm going to elect a game that has the best value for the amount that you spend on a skin, it's going to be Fortnite. I just can't think of a game that sells skins that I was more impressed by. And now, for the most disappointing game of 2020, the nominees are Cyberpunk 2077. And the award goes to Cyberpunk 2077. So I'm not going to rag on this too much because I've made other videos about this, and I know that there are a lot of viewers of mine who really enjoy the game, but Cyberpunk was, in my opinion, a very disappointing game this year. Not only did it have that unbelievable hype that it needed to live up to, but it's had one of the worst launches I've ever seen in video game history. Plus, it didn't meet certain personal qualifications on my list that I really wanted it to meet. Like I've said, I've talked about the game already on my channel, and I actually plan to talk about it more on my channel, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. I just was pretty disappointed by Cyberpunk 2077. And as I always say, there are qualities to this game, it's just overall, I was really let down. And the nominees for the game that deserves an HD remake but hasn't received one yet are Chameleon Twist, Donkey Kong 64, and Grand Theft Auto 1. And the award goes to Chameleon Twist. All right, there's not much to say about this one. Chameleon Twist, if you're unfamiliar, is an N64 game that has some really fun mechanics to it. It was so good it even spawned a sequel. And I don't know, it's this intellectual property that really hasn't been expanded on since its creation. I think a lot of old school Nintendo and N64 fans are familiar with it as just a really great game. And like I said, I love the mechanics of the game. They're very, very unique. And I was surprised. The first time I played Chameleon Twist, I had a lot of fun. So I'd definitely like to see an HD remake of Chameleon Twist someday. And the nominees for game that didn't come out in 2020, but game that I played for the first time in 2020 and really enjoyed are Doom 3.
Also the first Resident Evil remake.
And the award goes to Doom 3. All right, now this is a category I'm very excited to do every year, because while I've played a lot of video games and I own a lot of video games, certain games I've just never played before. And while I'm a big Doom fan and I've played almost all of the Doom video games, Doom 3 I only played just this year. Before Doom Eternal came out, I decided to marathon every single Doom video game. And if you're familiar with Doom 3, you know that there's a lot of discourse around the release of the game. Many hardcore Doom fans don't really like the game and think that it changed too many core mechanics of the original series. And to be completely fair, it is a very different game than the original two Doom games. Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 are more similar to Doom's roots than Doom 3 is. But just because Doom 3 is different doesn't mean that it's bad. I went into it not expecting Doom 3, but expecting a new experience. And I had a lot of fun. It just felt like a really good horror game. Navigating dark tunnels and using your flashlight to barely discern what creatures wait in the night for you. I really loved Doom 3 as a horror experience. I was surprised at how much I loved the game, and when I finished it, I honestly wanted to play it again. One of my favorite sections of the game is when you get teleported to Hell. I really like the way that Hell looks in Doom 3, and I both love and hate that the Hell sections are so brief. I really wanted to experience Hell for a little bit longer, but the fact that they used it so briefly also makes it just that much more cooler, if you know what I mean. Anyway, if you're a horror video game fan, I highly recommend Doom. It has some really good shooting mechanics, and it's a great first-person shooter, but it definitely doesn't have the energy or adrenaline that the first two Doom games have, and especially not the adrenaline that the Doom Eternal game has. But I highly recommend Doom 3. And the nominees for Most Prettyful Looking Game of 2020 are Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk 2077.
Also, Paper Mario is nominated for this as well.
And the award goes to Ghost of Tsushima. Alright, I don't know why I called it the Prettyful Game of the Year, but the most beautiful game, I guess I'm talking about graphics or something like that, definitely goes to Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima is an amazing game for a lot of different reasons, but it is one of the most breathtaking games I've ever seen. Especially for a game that runs so well on PlayStation 4, it really takes you to another place, and a lot of the vistas are just stunning. In an open world game like Tsushima, making the world look beautiful enough to make you want to explore it is really important. Some open world games just focus on size or focus on side quests, but I really do think that the way the world looks in Tsushima really makes you want to explore it. I mean, man, I love this game. I just really like this game, and that's a beautiful thing. And the nominees for a game that was a lot of fun to play are Marvel's Avengers, Miles Morales, A Spider-Man Story, Ghost of Tsushima, and the award goes to Marvel's Avengers. Alright, everybody's mad at me. I gave an award to Fallout 76 and Marvel's Avengers. What am I thinking? So I know most fun isn't really a category in most video game award shows, but fun I think is such a genuine factor when it comes to video games that isn't necessarily related to the qualities of a story or overall the entire experience. At the end of the day, Marvel Avengers is not a perfect game, and I wouldn't tell anybody that it is, but it manages to be fun in its gameplay in a really fantastic way that a lot of AAA games don't manage to be. This kind of game is really important to me, and it's the kind of game where I can shut off the volume, put on headphones, listen to music, and just get lost in the gameplay for hours. You can't really do that with every video game, and in some games it's awesome that you're so sucked into the world, but other times I just want to mindlessly play a video game, and the gameplay in Marvel Avengers really helps me do that. Some people might consider what I'm saying like a diss or a burn, but I really don't think it is. Essentially, I started saying that I think Marvel Avengers is a really great arcade game. And the fact of the matter is, the gameplay has to be really, really good for me to enjoy it as an arcade game. Just because I'm not as invested in all the other aspects of Marvel Avengers doesn't mean that it's not a great game. So yes, Marvel Avengers is the most fun game I've played this year, honestly. I love the freedom that I have to turn it on, beat up some robots, and listen to a podcast or listen to some music. And the nominees for a game that was released in 2020 that I really wanted to play, but didn't have a chance to, are Wasteland 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Godfall. And the award goes to Wasteland 3. Alright, so this is one of the hardest categories that I made up for this video. But seriously, I genuinely had trouble choosing between the three options. All three games are games that I really, really wanted to play this year, but when push comes to shove, Wasteland 3 was the game that I really, really wanted to check out that I wasn't able to. I was lucky enough to get a copy for Christmas, but with all of the Marvel Avengers hype going on at the time of its release, or at least shortly after its release, I wasn't able to afford a copy of the game, and as a huge Fallout fan, I really want to keep playing Wasteland. If you're unfamiliar, Wasteland is the franchise that first preceded Fallout. Fallout was essentially the spiritual successor to the original Wasteland. And over the past 10 years, the game has made a return, and Wasteland 2 and now 3 have continued the story of the original 1988 game. And not just that, the new Wasteland games continue the spirit and gameplay of the original Wasteland video game. Fallout games have received a lot of criticism for changing the formula too much and abandoning the RPG mechanics that made everybody love the original Fallout games. And while I really love the direction that Bethesda has taken Fallout in the past 15 years, it's really cool to see the studio continue the core idea of the original Fallout games. So with that being said, I'm really excited to play Wasteland 3, and I highly recommend the Wasteland series to anybody who's curious. And the nominees for Best Pokemon released in 2020 are Cubfu, Galastrier, and Galarian Slowbro. And the award goes to Galarian Slowbro. So there were a lot of really cool Pokemon released this year, and again, this is another category that I'm excited to do every year. But the Galarian Slowbro is just so cool. Plus, this was a highly anticipated Pokemon. I think a lot of people were really excited about this one. There's not much for me to say other than he looks like Mega Man, and that's pretty dope. I also just like the colors shifting from purple to pink. Look, I hate mentioning Gen 1 Pokemon. I love Gen 1 Pokemon, but they don't really need any more props than they already have. But this is just a really cool alternate version of a Gen 1 Pokemon. So please forgive me. I promise that next time I'll try not to give this award to a Gen 1 Pokemon. And the nominees for Best Story in a Video Game are Miles Morales, The Story of a Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima. And the award goes to Miles Morales, A Story of Spider-Man. As many of you know, I'm a huge Marvel fan, and most of all, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and Miles Morales really knocked it out of the park for me. I loved the original Insomniac Spider-Man game, but honestly, I think I love Miles Morales more. I've played the game twice now, and I want to go back and play it again. A lot of people don't seem to like its length, but I actually really prefer how short it is. And I really love the story and the ideas that it explores. Not only are the ideas in the story very Spider-Man, but they're also just very relatable in terms of family drama. I'm sure a lot of people think that the Miles Morales story can be a little bit generic, but in my opinion, what makes it excel are the differences in ideologies throughout the game. I love seeing characters disagree for more than just confusion, and the characters in Miles have very different perspectives. They're not confused about their points of view, they are firmly cemented in what they believe. And it can be really sad and very difficult to see these characters interact with each other, not willing to compromise on what are really significant ideals. Whenever I saw two characters talking to each other in Miles Morales, I just got really excited. It never felt like they had tension for contrived reasons. The tension always felt really real. And for that reason, I think the story is fantastic. And now, the most important award. The nominees for Game of the Year, according to carrotscraps, are Marvel's Avengers, Spider-Man, The Miles Morales Saga, Ghost of Tsushima, Doom Eternal, and the award goes to Doom Eternal. I think I've said this like dozens of times on stream, but yes, Doom Eternal is my game of the year, hands down. I'd love to give it to a number of other games, but Doom Eternal is just such a fantastic game. In my opinion, if you're talking about games that really do change the foundation of video games, Doom Eternal is it. When I personally look at the qualities of a video game, the first thing I look at is gameplay. And the way id Studios implemented their gameplay in Doom Eternal that differed from 2016 and other predecessors really makes this game stand out. Each combat scenario is not just an arena shooter, it's also a mind game and a puzzle to solve. And it's all thanks to the fine-tuning of mechanics like the chainsaw, glory kill, dashing, and many other mechanics introduced and perfected in Doom Eternal. I think it's such a shame that Doom Eternal hasn't gotten more awards as of yet. I really do think that Doom Eternal deserves more recognition than it's gotten over the past year. Sure, maybe the story isn't the greatest thing in the world, but in terms of gameplay, I think it's really revolutionary. I don't think other developers should copy whatever model that Doom Eternal puts forward, but I do think that future developers should study what Doom Eternal does and implement it in some way into their next game. Every way you play in Doom Eternal feels intentional. Everything feels important, and none of it feels like an afterthought. And I think all of that is really important to creating a substantial game. I don't know, Doom Eternal is just amazing. I've played it a bunch of times already. If you haven't played it yet, totally, you should play it. If you think it's too hard, that's totally fair, but I do encourage you to just take another shot at the game and try to just think of your tools and your assets a little bit better when you're playing. I think while the game is definitely really hard, I think it's also very accessible. This might be a weird comparison comparison, but Doom Eternal kind of feels difficult in the same way that Portal 2 feels difficult. Yes, you're trying to be the best at shooting in Doom Eternal, but really, you're just solving massive puzzles, in my opinion. Anyway, I love Doom Eternal. If you haven't played it yet, please give it a shot if you are able to. All right, and those are the awards. That's the end of my bit, and that's going to do it for this video. All right, so really quickly to get kind of serious. Again, I just wanted to say, I know it's been a really tough and difficult year, and I just wanted to say that I hope everyone is okay, and I hope that if you have dealt with difficulty, I hope that you are on the road to recovery, and I hope that you know, your mental health is okay, and I hope that your physical health is okay for you and your family. And just a reminder, this is something that I mention on my Twitch streams all the time, that, like, you know, it's okay to not feel normal during this year. It's been a very crazy year, and give yourself time to acknowledge how difficult this year is and to reward yourself for making it through it. Now, on a completely different subject, I wanted to thank everybody who has stuck with me over the past year. I started this channel in April, and I just can't believe it's been that long since I started uploading and streaming on carrotscraps. It feels like I only started doing this like a couple of weeks ago, but it's almost been an entire year since I started this channel. So from the bottom of my heart, I just wanted to say thank you to anyone who has subscribed to my channel on YouTube or has watched me at all on Twitch. If you've watched any of my videos, if you've seen any of my content, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. And to the people who are consistently, you know, in my chat on Twitch, or who are subscribed to my YouTube channel, or who are hanging out with me on Discord or on Twitter, thank you so much. You've made this so much fun to do. I've always wanted to do this kind of content. This year has been super difficult for me as well. I haven't been able to work, and so I tried to look at it as a blessing and really put work into a YouTube channel, which is something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm really happy with how things have come out. It's really created an outlet where I can be super creative and where I can talk about things that I care about. And while I love expressing myself every day in all of my content, it wouldn't be half of what it is without the people who support me regularly. So thank you so much for watching any of my stuff on carrotscraps. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I can't say it enough. For the regulars and for anybody who's even watched any of my stuff, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It's been a crazy year, but this has been one of the more positive things about my year. And I'm really excited to continue working on new content in 2020. I have a lot of different ideas for YouTube, for Twitch, and for other platforms as well. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. If you want to watch me play video games live, check me out on Twitch at carrotscraps. Although now that I think about it, since April, I've been saying at carrotscraps on Twitch. That's not how you find people on Twitch. I think you can search my name on Twitch and it'll come up like that. But the correct way to say this is check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/carrotscraps. That's the way I'm supposed to be doing it, and I'm sorry I've been doing it wrong for so long. Let me just make sure that that works. Yep, it works. But I am at carrotscraps on all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, so you can check me out there like that. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching this video, and I will see you soon. If you're wondering what is happening, I'm trying to focus the shot. That's my microphone with a toilet paper roll resting on top of it. I originally was going to put a cup on there, but it didn't balance correctly, so now we're using a toilet paper roll. Works well to me, I guess.